Today is obviously about tracking. We know we do three things: recruitment training, including Bullhorn training. We have a product called Bullhorn First, where we help our clients weaponize their Bullhorn system, aka recruitment technology ROI, but we call it Bullhorn First, where we have a look at your Bullhorn system, we have a look at your people, we have a look at your processes, we have a look about where you want to be, and then we create a plan to get you there. So that's what we really like doing. And then the third thing is automation. We love automation. We get out of bed every morning to automate. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? But the reason we like doing it, as will become clear, is because it helps with productivity, it helps with pipeline, it helps with make it stop moments like most of my clients have had in the last 5 years. The ones that were more automated than others have come out of all of the challenges that keep being thrown at us a lot stronger. So we're interested in that. Now, subtle sales pitch. Yeah, we implement automation for our clients. We're really good at that. And some of you are actually on our implementation programs right now. I noticed some familiar faces. But we also have got a fantastic product called Automation Buddy. And it kind of does what it says on the tin. Yeah. So whether or not you were a client of ours previously when you implemented, you need some training, you need some coaching, or you need us to just do some heavy lifting, or you need us to shine a light on stuff, we have packets of time that we can donate to you at a cost, where we buddy up and we help you drive. And what I said to my client the other day is, you got a Ferrari, don't just look at it. Either get in and drive it and we'll show you how to drive it really fast, or let us drive it for you and you can sit in the back and get on with the rest of your day. That's Automation Buddy. But don't just park it on the drive and go, I'll get around to that one day. Yeah. You don't get a sticker for buying automation. You get a sticker and lots of money, probably because of it, by driving it fast. So that's what Automation Buddy is. We've obviously got Recruitment Hit, and some of our Recruitment Hit clients are on the call as well today. I'll let you discover this, but I'm going to be sending you some stuff about this. But this is how we bookend the process. We get automation pumping some serious turbo into your businesses, and then we deal with the humans. And that's what Recruitment Hit does. It gets the blood pumping and it gets your recruiters really productive. Really proud of that system. We've got more webinars coming. Next month, Wayne's running one on monetizing your candidates. I think, I love that word, by the way, like weaponize, monetize. That's going to be a great webinar, what I've seen of him writing that up so far, about how to get these candidates making you some serious cash. So that's something to think about. I want to know, though, what's happening with your automations right now. I'm interested in your automation ROI. I'm interested in what it's doing for you. I'm always interested in what people are doing. We've been in the market a while now, and I'm always interested in how much money and time is being spent on tech. That maybe the only people that are making money from that purchase are the people that you bought it from. Right, the next thing I'm interested in, by the way, is we've got a Bullhorn webinar next week for your recruiters, your trainers, your marketeers. Yeah, hot tips. Try saying that 3 times and getting it incorrect. Hot tips. We're looking at some underutilized ways of using Bullhorn that could really give you the edge. Again, we're Bullhorn first creatures, yeah? Not Bullhorn in a minute. I'm interested, though, from your Bullhorn perspective, how Bullhorn works for you, lovely creatures. So let me just... where has it gone? Where has it gone? This isn't going to be basically a year's worth of polls, but again, I'm always interested in what's going on in the industry. Are you Bullhorn first, last, in a minute, sometimes? Or one of our clients recently said, only. Bullhorn only. I've turned off LinkedIn. They're not allowed to advertise anymore. We've got enough freaking data. The only way I was going to get them to use Bullhorn first was to turn everything else off. Spreadsheets, gone. SharePoint, restricted. Seriously, I get quite, should I say, turned on by that thought, she says. So that's something for you guys and gals to think about. It is absolutely possible to have a Bullhorn first culture, but you might need to do something radical for that to happen. Okay, thank you so much for that, everybody. Right, let's crack on. So my job is always to warm up. You guys know this because you've been on some of my webinars before. I've got some stats that I think are interesting. Candidates are picky. They're fussy. One of Bullhorn's latest grid reports said 22% of candidates think they get placed within a week of applying for a job. That's their level of expectation. Somebody make that stop. Yeah, clients as well. Tricky tricky, tricky, tricky. They expect you to be on it. But at the same time, recruiters are drowning in everything, everywhere, all at once. They are potentially wasting a lot of time on stuff because they've got desks that are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just you can't see it because it's data. When Wayne and I started working together, it was like something from a Dickens novel of CVs on desks and all that lovely stuff. So think about that. Think about how this webinar today is going to help you create some laser focus. A very wise person said to me once, there's a very big difference between ready, fire, aim and ready, aim, fire. Think about it. A lot of recruitment businesses are ready, fire, aim, dumping a load of stuff out there, hoping it works. Yeah. And it's never been easier. There's never been more technology to enable you to scream, and you are so loud that you can't even hear the responses. I need you to think about that from an automation perspective and think about the things that Wayne's going to tell you about today. Because, and this stat, by the way, I actually had a bit of a moment earlier today because I realized that it was about 2 years ago that I grabbed this stat that you can see in front of you right now, that in 2025, like tomorrow, we are going to basically be managing our lives and businesses through data. This stat was taken before COVID. Yeah. Oh my God, have things changed? Think about it. Think about what's happened in the last 4 years. So again, whilst you're listening to Wayne's ideas about how to uncover opportunities, how to generate more time for recruiters so they're less administrative, more consultative, adding value, you can raise your prices or whatever it is, you can become more bullish in your approach and spend proper time being the niche specialists that your websites say you are. Think about what Wayne's telling you, because I want you to stop wasting time doing the wrong things. 3 C's, candidates, clients and colleagues, they're currently quite limited in terms of their scope. They can't work 24-hour days, but now everyone else is remote. They almost need to. The world has become a very easily accessible place if you're a robot. Yeah. So think about how you're going to use automation to create more structure, create more scope, create more line of sight, to shine lights on opportunities that are literally waiting to be capitalized on. And think about sales at the moment. Think about how you may be restricting your sales pipeline by not working it in the correct way and by not weaponizing your data and your time and your team. So I want you to be thinking throughout this webinar, and I'm going to let Wayne hand over in a second. How much more productive could your recruiters be if you do some of the things that Wayne is telling you? Ergo, how much more money could your business make? Yeah. And then recycle into skiing trips, more staff, better offices, or whatever it is that you get out of bed for. Think about how automation could really help you realize your company's value and values. A lot of you have some very strong values. I've been having a look on them online earlier this week. I'm interested, though, is one thing that's always interesting to me, and I'm taking the temperature of this because we're doing a piece of work with another client at the moment, and they're always asking me, what's the industry doing regarding LinkedIn and job boards? And I have a very strong opinion on this. Yeah, I want to know, though, what are you guys and gals doing with your LinkedIn and job board spends? A lot of you that I work with personally are drastically trying to reduce reliance and cost. Maybe you've scaled your businesses down, but you've still got a crazy amount of licenses. Or maybe you've been listening to Wayne and I over recent years where we keep saying Bullhorn first, source from Bullhorn first, place from Bullhorn first, weaponize, manage, prevent dropouts, manage your time, manage your people, manage your pipeline through Bullhorn first. And if that's the case, then there is less need to be reliant on job boards and LinkedIn. And by the way, there is a horrible stat, which is about 50% of the people and applications you get from LinkedIn and job boards are a total waste of your time. And for some of you, that's going to be much higher. So why are you paying for the privilege of drowning in stuff that you don't want? It's no good. So I need you to be thinking about that as well whilst Wayne is talking the talk about tracking. So think about how you could be saving time and money, because I often get told automation is expensive. I think not having automation is expensive. Sorry. I think not having it and doing loads of stuff and not making the right amount of traction and progress with your business and hiring recruiters maybe that you don't need and working with the wrong businesses because you can't see the wood for the trees and maybe not effectively screening your candidates because you're too busy and you're letting the wrong people through. They hurt your pipeline. That's expensive. Mantra over. Right, I'm going to move on from that and we're going to just hand over now to the lovely Wayne, who has got a crazy amount of experience. We've done over 400 automation projects with our clients in the last 5 years. We regularly work with businesses, and the main reason they work with us is, what's everyone else doing? What am I missing? What mistakes do I want to avoid making? That's what our automation buddy program is all about, that nice big squeeze, or let us do the heavy lifting. So get as much as you can out of Wayne. I'm going to shut down and hand over. Thank you very much.
First thing I'd like you guys to tell me about is automation. How much time do you spend automating each week? There is clearly a direct correlation between the amount of automation you get launched and the amount of time you spend in it. But far too often I see that once you've gone live with automation, that amount of time tails off over a short or long period of time. So very keen to understand what people are doing in that respect. So lots of people spending between 2 and 5 hours. I would suggest on average, you need to be spending on average about 2 hours a week minimum in automation in order to get some true value. If you've got a team of people, or if you've got one person that's dedicated to it, that's even better. But the more time you spend in it, the more value you'll get from it, and the more experience that you'll get understanding how automation works, and also the amount of time and effort that it takes to get people trained up on automation and what they should be doing with the information that you send through to them. Okay, that's good. Thank you very much for that, Lisa. Next slide. So my favorite slide, one of my favorite slides, perceptions of CRM. Lisa mentioned a second ago that 60–70% of candidates that apply through LinkedIn or job boards get dumped onto your database. They're irrelevant data. So we have to change the perception of what Bullhorn is. I'm a big believer of trying to make Bullhorn very, very similar to a job board, whereby the data is naturally updating itself. So when I look for an available candidate, I know they're available. They've told me they're available. Not they were available 15 years ago and nobody's updated the data. So we have to get into the habit of understanding that recruiters are not just salespeople, they are data engineers, they're data miners. That information has to go into Bullhorn. The benefit of it going into Bullhorn is that it feeds into Bullhorn Automation as well. So that's really, really important. So 72% of the time, your candidate's already on your database. If you're an established business, if you want to reduce the amount of time and effort, and money that you're spending in LinkedIn and job boards, use Bullhorn first. Yeah, get your recruiters engaging with the data on the database, get it refreshing, use automation in order to help you update that data. Okay, next slide, community. Again, going back to the perception of data on the Bullhorn system as a dump, well, change the dynamic. Look at your database as a community. If you've got 100,000 candidates in that database, is there a way in which you can separate them out and build warm communities? If you're a temp recruiter or a contract recruiter, when are people's start dates, or when are they next available? When next week can that supply teacher work for you? How often are you communicating with them? Automation should be helping you to build those communities and keep that communication and engagement going. So, tracking. Last webinar I did was all about ROI. How do you prove the value that you're getting? Well, a lot of what people came back to me and said, it's great that you've told us what to do. How do we do it? So I thought we'd use this webinar to sort of talk to you about some of the tracking options that you've got in order to help you identify what it is you're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to talk to you about Y-Track. I'm going to talk to you about the Has Activity feature, and then we've got some specific areas of the automation system that I want to show you. I've got some practical examples as well, which should give you some food for thought as well. So the next big question is why track? Well, tracking is really, really important. If you're not tracking, then what are you doing with that data? Yeah, it's great that you're sending it all of this information, but if you're not understanding what's happening to it, or you're not following up with that information, or you're not checking in to make sure that your recruiters are doing what you ask them to do, what's the value? There is no value to a certain degree. So I've put some high-level ideas here about why you should track. Business intelligence, #1 requirement. If you use HubSpot or MailChimp or Force24 or Sense or any of those other systems, you'll know the challenge you have of generating all this wonderful data and then manually having to package that up and send it back to your recruiters and say, oh, look, these people are doing stuff. The huge benefit Bullhorn Automation has is that it's integrated into Bullhorn. It can update Bullhorn very, very quickly. It can message recruiters or it can message back office teams and say, this information needs to be done something with. So it's really, really important that your recruiters, as they're engaging with Bullhorn, or your candidates or your sales contacts are engaging with Bullhorn Automation, that intelligence is being pushed back to the recruiters. That'll help you identify leads. Yeah, that's the idea of what we're doing here. One of the things that you want to be able to do is generate leads. Anybody who's looking at live jobs, candidates or sales contacts, in my mind, is a lead. You should be reaching out to those people. Why are they looking at jobs? Is your sales contact looking at jobs potentially because they're wanting to find a new job? Or are they looking to see what type of roles you recruit for? Again, leads generation is one of those things that you want to be tracking and passing on to your recruiters. You want to be proving that your recruiters are doing what you're asking them to do. Yeah, tracking performance, tracking their ability to actually engage with the data that you're sending through to them will help them improve their productivity. It's really important you understand that if you send a list of candidates or sales contacts onto your recruiters, that they've called them. It's great at generating call lists, but if they're not engaging with those call lists, again, what is the point of doing sending them that information? The other thing you want to be doing is you can be escalating. They're not doing what you want them to do. Well, let's escalate it. Let's get leadership involved in that process. Some clients' leadership get involved at the very start of the process. So at the beginning of the week, they're able to say, let's sit down and talk about what we need to do. Here's the list of stuff that I want you to follow up with. Some people are basically saying that actually they want to give recruiters a period of time and allow them to do the work. And if they haven't done it or they've hit a problem, then we can escalate that to the leadership or the management team. The other key thing that you want to be doing is tracking follow-ups. Somebody does X or Y, you want them to be able to follow up with Z or X. And that's the benefit of what you can use tracking for. So one of the first things that I want to show you is the has activity slide. So this feature in Bullhorn is really, really important, and not many people engage with this as much as they should. So under the Bullhorn list criteria, Bullhorn Automation has two data sets. It has all the Bullhorn data, which we know and love and engage with on a regular basis, but we also have all the activity that's generated from when we send out an automation. So there's an option within lists that say has activity, and within this we get a load of different options. So I pulled out the main ones that most people want to be using there. So for example, people that have unsubscribed. Well, if they've unsubscribed, we might want to understand why they've unsubscribed. We might need to forward that onto a team of people. So a little tip I'm going to show you later on about those people that have unsubscribed but are in process with you. That's a really important one. This the last slide I'm going to show in a minute. The classic one is you want to look at your vanity stats. You want to look at how many emails have been sent, how many have been opened, how many clicks have we had. There's a big caveat on that now, and I'm going to talk to you about that later on. You want to talk about the number of bounces. So if things are bouncing, you might want to be tracking as to why they're bouncing. If it's a hard bounce, or potentially there could be an opportunity there. Classic one as well that you want to be looking at is who's visiting our website. I mentioned a second ago, people looking at live jobs. Yeah, there's also things that you might be wanting to do, track specific campaigns that you're running. And then finally, like you can do with emails, you can also do a text message and SMS. If you're a temp or a contract heavy business, sending text messages may be your preferred communication, where you can track those the same way that you can track emails as well. Okay, tracking. So there are some considerations with tracking, and I think it's important to highlight these. The first thing is, I get asked this a lot, is there a way in which we can track candidates going to a website that we don't know about? Well, the simple answer there is no. Always remember, candidates and sales contacts must have gone through an automation in order for them to receive the information, and therefore then you can track them. It's that little cookie that gets installed on their device. That's the important thing that we need to happen. So it's only known candidates and sales contacts that you'll be able to track. Hard bounces used to be a bit of a challenge. The challenge with the high bounces was that it was also tracking people that would report your spam. That has been significantly improved. I'm seeing a lot less high bounces coming through the system. So thank you, Bullhorn, for fixing that. Hard bounces generally tend to be hard bounces now. So people are hard bouncing, you want to be tracking that. Manage people's expectations. You want to make sure that when you're releasing this and talking to your recruiters and your teams, It's not 100% accurate. Nothing is 100% accurate when you're doing this. There are so many different systems and caveats that I'm going to talk to you about in a second. But the idea there is that this is a very, very good guide. There will be the occasional one whereby somebody hasn't opened an email or they haven't logged onto the web page, etc., etc. Just take that with a pinch of salt. Just move on. Yeah, update the system, update Bullhorn to say that they didn't do that though. So why wouldn't they? Why would there be some false positives? Well, open rates specifically, I think everyone's aware of the personal data restrictions that Apple and Yahoo have put into place now. So the idea there is that they can block, you can specify that I don't want to be tracked. Other things that people can do as well is you can put browser controls in place, whether it's a Chrome extension or just in your actual browser control itself, you've got allow everything, restricted and very strict. And if they've got very strict, that may block those tracking cookies from working. Other things are GDPR requests. If you are tracking this information, you need to be able to extract the information if you get any of those GDPR requests. And the big one that we've spotted recently are these email scanning bots. We had a client recently that had a 99.9% open rate. And we looked at that and went, oh, that's really, really high for such a large volume of data. And what we tracked it down to is that more and more antivirus systems are now tracking opening up emails when it gets sent through to the firewall. They want to open up the emails, they want to click the buttons to make sure you're not being sent off to malicious websites or phishing websites. That can cause the system to track that it was opened or it was clicked. So just be careful of that. There are more and more of these coming through to the systems. You also want to be tracking other automations and other AI tools. AI is a big buzzword currently, and there's going to be a huge plethora of evolution in this space that may impact what happens with your emails and the information that you want to be sending out to people. I'm not aware of any specific ones at this moment in time, but I know that will become a problem at some point in the future. I mentioned high bounces already, don't need to go there. The one thing you do need to be doing though is you need to be educating your recruiters. It's all very well you sending them some information. If you're not telling them what you want them to do, it'll just go into their junk filter, or it'll be pushed into their junk filter or pushed into deleted items. So educate your recruiters. Tell them you're going to receive this information. When you do, this is what we'd like you to do with that. That's a really, really important process. And the other thing as well is when you do send them some information, I hear this a lot. People sort of back themselves into a corner, or they're a bit scared about sort of indicating that they've watched or they've seen somebody go to a website. So, I see you've opened my email. I've seen you've been to our website, etc., etc. The tendency there is, what happens if I get no, I didn't? So just rephrase the question. We recently ran a campaign, etc., etc. That enables you to have the understanding that we've looked and we've seen, but we're not telling you that we've looked and seen potentially. So some considerations there. So let's talk about tracking websites. How do you track websites? So tracking websites is all done through the list criteria generally. So you've got the ability to say has activity, and then you've got these job view, job apply if it's a candidate focus. Remember, you set those up in your website integration settings within the settings page. Or alternatively, if you just want to track any web page, then you can specify that particular page. So has activity, it's this page. You can also then specify whether or not it's this particular email that you send. So if you're running a campaign, so a client of mine's just done salary surveys, we've sent it salary surveys. We're now tracking to see whether or not those emails have generated specific leads to the 3 specific web pages that we've created. It's generating lots and lots of good information. We're forwarding that back to the recruiters. That's their call list for the next 24 hours. Yeah, that's the way in which we're generating those, tracking those websites. Other great things you can be tracking on websites, blogs. How do you define what your blog or what your content strategy should be? Well, if you're sending out lots of information related to your website, you should be able to analyze that data and say loads of people are looking at this type of data. Well, they're obviously interested in that. Why don't we go and generate more of that sort of data, the more of those blogs, more of those white papers, etc., etc. So really, really use the ability for you to track what people are looking at. Okay, next one is tracking backdoors. Technically speaking, not really tracking this. What you are doing, though, is you're providing information to your recruiters to go away and try and generate some fees from, let's say, from unscrupulous customers that have recruited your candidates, even though you introduced them and they've not given you a fee. So there's a really quick way of being able to do that. You want to be looking at either interview notes or alternatively, if you still leave the submission status as first interview or second interviews, build an automation that will track that and then send that to your recruiters 2, 3, 4, 5 months later down the road for them to pick up the phone and see whether or not those candidates have actually started. Tracking backdoor placements is a really quick way of identifying fees that you are owed, that your recruiters can pick up the phone and make some and generate some fees from. Next one I like to look at is the tracking performance, tracking your recruiters. So here's a classic example. We've got an automation here, which is the client at risk automation. It used to be one of those blueprints. Here's a list of sales contacts that we've had placements with in, say, the last 2 years, but we might not have spoken to them, or there's been no notes added in the last 2, 3, 4 months, whatever that time frame is going to be. What we want to do here is we want to make sure that we've sent some information to the recruiters. And then if they've all done their job and they've spoken to them and they've done what we've asked them to do, in this case, add a specific note of BD call, then they should drop out of the list. And in this instance, what they haven't, or if they haven't dropped out of the list, what you'll see then is we've got this second notification that's going to the recruiter. But on top of that, it's also going to be escalated to a manager or a leadership. Now, there's 3 ways you can do that now. The 2 classic ways were maybe use a distribution list. So it's just a notification that gets sent out to all the managers, and saying these people are not being contacted. It's down to the managers to go through that list. It's a bit of a cumbersome way of doing it, but it does work. The other way of doing that would be to use smart tokens. So this person is in charge of these people, and that person is in charge of those people. They then use your smart token to say, send the information, and that would be more team specific. However, at least if you move on to the next slide, Bullhorn have just launched this reports to feature. So we've been asking this for a while. It was a really quick way of being able to identify, well, if in Bullhorn we update the reports to field in the Bullhorn user record. It's been there forever. I don't see it updated anywhere near as much as it should be. But the idea being there, if Wayne reports to Lisa, Lisa's name would go into the reports to field. That means now when I'm building my up escalation email or notification, I am able to send that through to this new option underneath that says to, and it now says sales contact owner reports to. So that will say, well, Wayne reports to Lisa, so let's send that information and add that information into an email and send that on to Lisa. So it's a really quick way now of being able to escalate information to your team leaders or your managers using the reports to feature. One thing that you could consider there, if you don't use it at all, but you only want it to go to senior leadership, then just update the senior leadership, put the reports to and just put the senior leadership in, bypass that middle management layer if you need to. So great new feature. Well done, Bullhorn, for getting that. That's going to save a huge amount of time and effort. And you only need to update it once in Bullhorn, as opposed to updating it multiple times, possibly in multiple email or notifications if you ever needs updated. Okay, tracking bounces. This is one that is a blueprint. If you haven't got this switched on, the idea being that you should be able to track hard bounces. People do track soft bounces, but generally it's the hard bounces. So it's an opportunity for you to be able to say, I want to track hard bounces. You also might want to use that subscription status. So the subscription status indicates the Bullhorn mass mail opt-out field in Bullhorn ATS or Bullhorn 1. So you can basically specify they've unsubscribed, but they're still subscribed in Bullhorn. There's an opportunity for you to be able to track those. Again, it can provide you lots of opportunities. It can generate leads. Candidates that have moved or bounced emails, generally, you'd only do that if it's a work email, but if there's a problem with the candidate's email address, at least you'll be informed. And then obviously, sales contacts, 3 emails bounced, either there's a problem or they've moved. Well, if they've moved, there's an opportunity to go and find out where they've moved. Is it within your space? Is it within your industry? Is it in a place whereby you can build another relationship with another company? And also there's a backfill opportunity potentially. So tracking hard bounces, useful, maybe once a week email that goes to your recruiters, allow them to follow that up. And most importantly, remember to update Bullhorn as well. It's if they've found a bounced email, get them to update Bullhorn to tell you. This final automation is one that I mentioned a second ago. So this is really important if you have candidates and you're using automation to be able to send out very important communications, i.e. you're managing the interview process, you're managing the offer process, you're managing candidates that have been onboarding and engaged at start dates, etc., etc. If they've unsubscribed and you're not aware of that, they won't receive any of those communications. So build an automation that is tracking those people that have unsubscribed in Bullhorn Automation or opted out. Yeah, and then you can notify your recruiter with a list of instructions and saying, this is what we need you to do in order to get the candidate resubscribed. There is a specific process that your Bullhorn manager will need to do. Your Bullhorn systems administrator, they'll need to contact Bullhorn support, and there's a process whereby you can get them resubscribed. But it's also a great opportunity for you to get expressed consent. Now, those of you who are not aware of what PECR is, the Private Electronic Communications Regulations, that is, you should have express consent to be able to communicate digitally with any candidate in the market. It's different from GDPR, please bear that in mind. But once you've got that express consent, then you could be updating the consent module in Bullhorn. It's a really great round process. I can request that data, I can get it updated in Bullhorn consent, therefore I'm protected legally. So tracking candidates in process who have unsubscribed or opted out, really, really important. So lots and lots of really good juicy tips in there regarding what to do in terms of tracking. Decide what you want to track. Make it very, very clear as to why you're tracking and what you're planning on doing with that. When you've understood that, make sure you educate your teams as well. Go away, build your lists, build your automations, test, train, release. And if you get stuck, please do reach out and ask us for any ideas or help or support that we can give you.
Right, so lots and lots of information there, and that's just the kind of like tip of the iceberg. Evidently, if you've got any questions or any ideas that you've got for future webinars as well, we're always interested in what issues we could resolve with one of our monthly webinars. Don't forget our webinars for recruiters as well. We do those next week. So please reach out to me if you've got any questions. Don't forget this subtle sales pitch. We are automation buddies for our clients, whether it be shining a light on stuff, giving confidence, or actually helping build the strategy and even building the automations for time-starved recruitment businesses who just want to get on with recruiting, and they let us do the heavy lifting. We absolutely love doing that as well. Remember though, it's about automating and training. You know, get your systems automated as much as possible and then get your recruiters really cooking with gas. We've got a load of back catalogue webinars on our website, all about productivity, account management, sales, etc. We've got 3 coming up. So next week is the candidate management tips. Then we've got Bullhorn tips. And then we've also got monetizing your candidates as well. So that's really something for you to think about and get yourself registered for. Evidently, I will be using automation to let you know about those. Don't forget our Recruitment Hit platform as well. There's a really happy client in the bottom right-hand corner. He uses it every month. He looks at one of the leadership programs. He particularly liked one about return on effort that he got very excited about. But he also uses it to help him with his Bullhorn first journeys with his recruiters, and also he helps it with onboarding his new starters as well as his experienced staff. So keep an eye out for that. If you're already a Hit client, well done you. If you're not, reach out to me for a free trial. We'd love to show you around. Don't forget where we are. Yeah, we work across the pond as well as in the UK and EMEA. We're always keen to work with ambitious recruiters that are time strapped or just need a helping hand. Have a great end to the week, and thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Take care.